Okay, today we're going to be making some superhero boot covers, specifically Batman, but you could probably cater yours to look like whatever. This, of course, isn't based off of, any canon Batman. This is just my own thing. This is what I had in my head and what I wanted it to look like. And you can see there's influences from the first Tim Burton Batman in this and the Nolan Batman and just a little bit of everything. Has a nice crease down the center, all comic book style, like I just wanted it to match up with the mask and the chest piece that I made and the gauntlets and everything else. Like a lot of the original pieces just didn't match up. So this all has the same texturing and same kind of color scheme. So it's all going to go together. And also pay attention and watch through till the end of the video because I am doing my first giveaway now that I've hit 200 subscribers. Thanks you guys all for subscribing. You're all great. I really do appreciate it. All right, let's go ahead and jump into this. Okay, so no joke here. The first thing you want to do is take some Glad cling wrap or whatever, saran wrap, and you're going to want to wrap your leg from right where your ankle is all the way up to the top of your knee. Next, you're going to want to take and cover that in tape. I actually used packing tape. I suggest duct tape, and I would have used duct tape, but I cannot find the brand new roll that I bought, which is quite frustrating. Next, you're going to take a regular old Sharpie and you're going to start drawing cut lines. I want this to be 3 pieces. One piece is going to go up the side here. The next piece is going to come down this side. And the third's going to be in the back, but I can draw that in later. Next, what I'm going to do is take a pair of scissors. I'm going to cut down the inside here so I can remove this from my leg. Okay, so I got the out along the cut lines, and this is the front piece. As you can see, it's relatively flat. There's not really a lot of shape to the front of your calf, but the back of your calf has a pretty heavy amount of shape. And I know I just said I was going to cut this into 3 pieces. Initially, what I was thinking was having hinges made from elastic, essentially, on both sides, and this being Velcroed down the center, but I've kind of decided against that. I think it would be easier if it was just 2 pieces, and if I had it just sort of connect on the outside or the inside of my leg so I could put them on myself easier. Now, this is curved, so to get it flat, I'm going to take a Sharpie, and I'm just going to draw here right down the center where this whole curved area of the back of my leg is, where my calf is. That's a pretty long cut, but I'm going to go ahead and cut down this line. Okay, you can see I've made my cut here, and this produces a V. So whenever I draw out my pattern, this V will be there, but whenever I glue my pattern together, I will glue the V together so that it becomes rounded again. Okay, the material that I'm going to make this out of is EVA foam mats, and I estimate they're probably around 10 to 12 millimeters thick. It makes stuff that you make out of this look a little bit more bulky, and that's the underside. The top side is smooth, and this is what I'm going to have on the outside of the actual boot cover itself. And next I'm going to use a Sharpie to trace this onto here. However, I actually want this to come up above my kneecap with kind of that point to it that Batman has. So I'm going to have to extend that. And I went ahead and I measured from where this starts with a tape measure up to how long I want it up above my knee. And for me personally, it's around 17 inches. So I need to measure this to make sure I'm extending it enough. Just so you can get an idea here of how much I extended this. You can see it's pretty decent amount. I also made it slightly wider than the original pattern. And the reason for this is, if it's too big, I can trim it down. If it's too small, I've wasted this. And same thing with this backside here. I had to do a little bit more extensions and working with it to get it to match up. And I did measure the inside edge here to the inside edge here and vice versa to make sure that this was long enough that it was going to match up. Next, I'm going to go ahead and cut out these pieces here with a pair of scissors. Alright, now that they're all cut out, I flipped them upside down. I put an R on both pieces so I know it's the right. Now all I have to do is trace around these and cut them out, and I have my left side boot cover patterns. Okay, and just like the other ones, I'm going to use some scissors to cut out the left side patterns. Alright, I marked these on the back, left and left. So now I have two lefts and two rights. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to glue these seams back together to give it its shape back. And to glue these together, I'm going to use some DAP Weldwood contact cement. You just spread it on both sides, wait about 15-20 minutes, and then stick it together. But always remember when you're using this, there's literally no room for error. Like, once it's touched together, it's done. So make sure you got it good and lined up. Okay, now with the front pieces, I took and found the center point here and here. Then I drew a line about 2/3 of the way down. And what I'm going to do with that is, I'm going to take an X-Acto knife and on either side here, about that far on either side of the line, I'm going to make cuts at an angle or at a bias with the X-Acto knife. Straight down through here. And I don't want to go through the other side. I don't want to get any deeper than halfway through it. And do this on either side. Okay, now that I've made my cuts down both sides, go ahead and pull this out. And what you're going to have is this V area. And what I want this for is I want to put a crease in this front piece here. And if I just try to crease the foam without removing a section of it, it's not going to have that sharp of an edge. But if I remove this strip here right down through the center, you see I actually have a little valley in the foam, and with some contact cement I can just glue that right back together. Since we cut those grooves in the backside, it already has somewhat of a natural shape. And to get the rest of the shape, I'm going to have to do some heating and pulling and tugging and stretching on this. I usually use the heat gun to heat it up, but for these front pieces here, like I say, in order to get that sharp edge, I had to remove this little valley here. Now you can see, get this focused, it's not a perfect cut, but it doesn't matter. It's on the back side, and it serves its purpose. Bam! Get that nice sharp edge that will then fade down into the bottom, which I'm just going to heat and curve. Alright, I took and ran some contact cement along there, let it sit, and I glued it together. Now this one I haven't really done much heating. I did a little heating around here on the bottom, just to help this keep its shape, because it's already wanting to pull apart right there. But this one I've actually done a fair amount of heating and shaping. And as you can see, the bottom is nice and rounded. And this edge here, you can see where I folded is flat. But on this one, I just ran some heat along the edge here with the heat gun. And also on the inside. And you can see both sides have a slight curvature to it. And as I'm doing this, I just go gradually. Because what I'm doing here is basically matching this up to like the form of my own leg, you know? Like this has to fit my leg. So the shape, the contours, and everything else will be different depending upon your body type and body size, or if you're wearing a muscle suit or something like that underneath this. So always keep those types of things in mind. But yeah, so far, these are shaping up pretty good, and I'm pretty stoked. Alright, now I've applied heat to both of them and got them as evenly shaped as possible for this not obviously being like a 3D printed thing or whatever. You know, it's just me cutting stuff out of foam. But you can see the total transformation. At least I feel. A lot of times people will come over to my house and they'll see these patterns and things whenever they're flat. And then they'll see me post a picture later. And they're like, I can't believe you went from that to that. But this is that crucial part of the process, the heating and shaping, that really brings out the sleekness of whatever you're making. Alright, and now that I got my shape and everything in them, I already did this one. I just took and put a bead of hot glue right down where I glued it together. Now I'm going to go through on this other one and take my hot glue gun and do the same thing. Alright, both sides are sealed up. I mean, truth be told, the contact cement will probably hold it, but there's a few times where I've had it just kind of dry out and come apart. And also, if you live in an area that's really hot or it's the middle of the summer, which I do live in an area that is very hot, you need to be very careful when transporting this stuff. Making sure, first of all, the light doesn't hit it. You don't have a lot of stuff on it because when it gets super hot, it can get smashed and totally lose its shape. So always keep that in mind. And that's one of the issues that comes up with the heat is sometimes I have the contact cement just kind of dry out and come apart. So the hot glue is just an added layer of protection to ensure that this holds its shape and looks as good as possible. Alright, so here is the right backside piece and here is the left. Obviously you can see the difference. This is unheated and this is heated and formed. And now that I have one done, I'm going to go ahead and do the other one. Now I just finished getting this hot and you can see it's flat. I'm going to go ahead and begin to put some of the shape into it. While it's still warm, I heated this underside here with the heat gun. And just to give you an idea of what I'm doing whenever I say I shape and form this, you have to get it pretty warm. And it always helps if you just kind of hold it in place until the foam cools. Now you don't want to get it so hot that you're going to burn yourself. And if you do need to get the foam that hot for whatever reason, you really need to wear some kind of work gloves or like safety gloves. Okay, and just from that you can see I'm already slowly starting to get the shape. Now to help hold this in place, I'm going to heat the outside. And I'm going to repeat this process, like I say, going all the way up the foam on the sides and everything to get it to match up with my leg and to match up with this other piece that I've already heated and shaped. Alright, here's both sides. See, they match up pretty well, even with little subtle bends and stuff, like where the calf is. So that's the back shell. Not going to be doing too much to the back shell. Now the front shell, I'm going to put some other layers and stuff on it to make it look more armored. Okay, here's my two finished backside pieces, and like I say, I'm not really going to do much to these. I may put some sort of insert on it, but it's the back of the leg and I ain't super worried. What I'm going to focus on now is the front. And this here is the front left one, I think. Yes, left. Front left one. And this crease and the groove I cut into it is about 11 inches long from the tip all the way down. So since I'm going to be putting some plates, armored plates on the front to make it look, you know, something other. I mean, this is a cool shape, but it's really, really plain. And most of my Batman costume has a lot of armored pieces. So I really want this to fit in with it, and I don't want it just to be another skinny boot cover. So I want it to look like something that's going to stop a bullet, you know, or shrapnel. I want it to look pretty tough. So I took a piece of 5mm EVA craft foam, and I just scored it down the center, not even with an X-Acto knife. I just took a ballpoint pen that doesn't even have ink and just ran it up and down with a ruler like 4 times, putting a decent amount of pressure. And then as you can see, well, maybe you can see, right here around the actual line, I used a heat gun. Now this foam doesn't take a lot. You don't have to use as much heat as you do to form these. And it's easy to forget that, especially after you're heating and forming thicker pieces like this. And then you go to something thinner like this. It's quite a considerable difference. So I just put a little heat on it and just creased it. And what I'm going to do next is I'm going to flip this over. I'm going to go ahead and line this up, and I'm going to trace the actual shape of this onto the 5mm foam. Alright, so here is my tracings. And of course, this one is the right. This is essentially just going to go on there. And this other one, of course, is the left. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the Sharpie and just with freehand, I'm going to extend this line here on both sides of each one. Alright, and this is what I meant by just extending this out here. I just did it freehand. Next, I'm going to start drawing these. I'm going to start drawing lines that are going to signify basically plates whenever I cut this all apart. Alright, so I already drew and cut out the right side pieces, and I use them as a reference as far as the length on these sides here, and also especially on these V pieces, how long the centerpiece was. And I measured that out over on the other side for the left one, and I'm sorry this is so sloppy, but you get the idea. I'm going to go ahead and cut this out now too, just like I did with this. Alright, both sides are cut out and pretty symmetrical considering that, you know, I'm doing freehand patterning here. Next, I'm going to start working from the top piece down to the bottom. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start gluing these on with Gorilla Super Glue. Normally, a lot of times, I use contact cement. But since I'm just a little worried about these all being exact and if I may have to do some heating along the way to get all this to fit proper, I have a little bit of work time with the super glue before it totally hardens. It's not much work time, just a few seconds, but if I need to adjust it or move it a little bit, I usually can. So I'm going to go ahead and start laboriously, slowly gluing these on with the super glue. Okay, so the only real tip I have while doing this is, I just want to point out that I am doing both at the same time. This is the left, and I'm doing the top piece first, and the right, I'm doing the top piece first. And I just want to make sure that they're as lined up and evenly spaced as possible. And the next I'm going to do 2, and then 2, and then 3, and then 3, and so on and so forth until I've gone all the way down and have all this done. Alright, I got all my pieces glued on, both the right and the left. Next, I am going to try these on to make sure everything lines up before I start putting any sort of reinforcement here on the back sides of these strips that are overlapping. Alright, switching over to the back sides here, I cut out a couple of pieces from 5mm EVA foam, and this one you can see I've already started to heat up with the heat gun and put some curvature and shape to it. And I also got this front end pretty hot, and I used some gloves that just kind of stretch it out so it slims down. And this one over here I haven't done anything to. So I'm going to go ahead and finish heating this, try to get them to match up as evenly as possible, and glue these two on with some super glue. Alright, these are glued on, and I feel like it definitely, especially here on this back side where the calf is, gave it a more rounded shape. It was a bit flat. And also helped cover up that seam, so we won't see that. And that pretty much wraps it up for now for these. I'm going to sit these off to the side. Next, we're going to focus on the front here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to run a strip of 2mm EVA craft foam. I'm going to run this strip along the inside here just to help reinforce this on both sides and help these to stay even. Alright, I have my 2mm EVA foam strips glued onto the back here. And I just pressed my foam against this and kind of drew a line with my fingernail and then cut it out and then sized it to shape. Sorry, there's nothing technical or easy I can explain about patterning out these 2mm pieces. I just did it. And part of the reason I use 2mm is I don't want this to be pushed out whenever these pieces line up. I want it to conceal the elastic straps that are going to be on one side and the Velcro that's going to be on the other. Okay, so next I'm going to take all 4 of these pieces before I Velcro them. Before I attach the elastic and the Velcro. And I'm going to texture them. And this is part of the reason why I'm remaking the spats for my Batman costume, is because it just doesn't match up. Like when I made all the pieces, I was experimenting with a lot of stuff. Most of it I didn't film except for the mask. And the mask itself is textured with plasti dip, and it also has that basic color. And as far as the rest of the costume, the gauntlets and the mask and the chest piece and everything now match up. The only thing it doesn't really match up is the spats and the thigh pieces. So I'm going through and redoing some of that stuff so that they all have the same consistent look and texture and color. And to texture this, I'm going to use black plasti dip. Now, unlike a lot of my videos, I'm actually plasti dipping this outside. And even though I am I want to point out that I'm still wearing a respirator. Okay, now back to this. Okay, so you can see here I'm not fully filling it in. And I've done this in other videos, so if you see my other videos, you've seen this before. I just kind of let it get a texture with a bunch of little beads. And I keep going back through and doing this over and over again. Usually like 4 to 6 coats till I get this pebbled, almost leathery looking texture. Okay, I'm about halfway through the coats. You can see it's starting to get a nice leathery texture. And you'll probably notice I've taken and I've turned them all 180 degrees. Because I was spraying them from this direction, you can see they're all black. But you can see all the green here still. So the next 3 coats I'm going to put on it, they're going to be sprayed from this direction. Right, and here are the pieces after all 6 coats. And all 6 coats for all 4 pieces took about... well, it didn't take about, it took a whole entire can of plasti to do that. And that's $6 plus tax just on this. But hey, that's not really much, and I feel like it's worth it. I will say that when I got down to the last little bit of the can, I did use it all on the front pieces, because those are the ones people are going to see the most. The cape's going to be covering most of the back. But, you know, just to help give it a little extra snap and texture, and I feel like it came out pretty good so far. It's still not quite dry, so we'll see how it looks whenever it's dry. But yeah, I'm pretty stoked so far. And I mentioned wearing a respirator. I just want to show you here. If you can see just how dark this is. It used to be this color white. So you can really, really see the contrast. This part's up against my face, so nothing's going through it. But this black part here, that's all stuff that would have gone in my lungs. You know, so it's always important to wear a respirator and be safe. Alright, now that my plasti dip is good and dried, I've gone through and I took some acrylic craft paint and some gloss Mod Podge, and I mixed them together, about 60% of this to about 40% of the gloss, and just mixed it up in an extra bottle that I had. And what I'm doing now is I am using this to paint in between the actual plates, and you can see it's slightly more glossy. Over here I've not done yet, and it's just all the same color. This is to help these pop a little bit. When light hits it or whatever, it's going to look, you know, a little bit more sharp than just this one same plain color, and it helps to break it up. Okay, and I'm going to go through here and I'm going to apply 2 coats of this mixture all the way from each one of these and the top here of the actual spat as well. Alright, now that this piece is dry and this one is drying, I flipped it over because you still see all these green areas here where, you know, it was sitting face down like this one, so the plasti dip didn't get to it. So I'm going to use some of the same mixture that I have here of the Mod Podge and the craft paint. And one of the nice things about this is Mod Podge seals the foam. So you're actually painting and sealing pretty much at the same time. And with a couple coats on each piece, they should be good and sealed and ready to go. The foam is rather porous and absorbent, so I do end up putting a fair amount on. I'm pretty liberal with globbing the paint on to an extent, just because it's going to absorb it. Alright, while I'm waiting on the front pieces of the boot to dry, I'm going to go ahead and paint just this top area. The side should be pretty well covered and shouldn't be exposed with the fins of the front piece coming over. And the bottom's already pretty well black, but this top piece here I'm going to have to paint black by hand. And I'm going to use the same mixture that I used on everything else so far. Alright, now that everything has been painted and is dried, I'm going to go ahead and start attaching these two together. Now I had to put it on my leg to see just how far apart I need to attach these, and it's about a half an inch, about that wide. And this is the right one, and this is the outside of the right one. The Velcro is going to be on the inside, so whenever you close it, it'll fold behind this overlapping piece, and hopefully will conceal most of the Velcro. And to glue this together, I've already cut out a total of 8 elastic strips, and that's 4 for each side, 4 for the right, 4 for the left. And I've cut out 16 little squares of 2mm thick EVA foam that I heated before I cut into little squares. And I'll show you why I did that here in a second. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is get my super glue, and I'm going to go ahead and spread some on this piece here that's going to be glued. This is a coarse cloth, so it's pretty absorbent. So it's okay to put a little bit extra on. Make sure it gets nice and stuck. I'm also going to put some on one side of this EVA foam piece as well. Okay, so I'm going to be gluing these to the inside of the rear right piece first. And I'm going to start up near the top. I'm going to go ahead and press my piece in super glue side down to the foam here. Now I'm not going to press it for too long because this elastic is absorbent, and the super glue will come through it and it'll get stuck to your fingers, and that's just no fun whatsoever. That's why I have this piece of EVA foam. It's a little added insurance, especially out here towards the edge where it can tend to come up. And the super glue is just a little added bonus, and it can take up to 30-40 seconds for this to really adhere. So I'm going to go ahead and hold that there. And you can see I've left enough strap that I'm going to have my space plus ample room to glue here onto the other piece. So I'm going to go ahead and put all 4 pieces on here spaced out. And I'm going to repeat this process of using the super glue and the EVA foam. Alright, I got all my Velcro strips cut. This is the hook side, and this is the soft side. And I'm going to be gluing these as I'm waiting for these 4 elastic straps that I've glued on to dry. I'm going to go ahead and start gluing these on. And to glue these on, I'm going to use some super glue and some hot glue. And there's going to be 3 on each side. And I'm going to put 1 here, 1 at the end, 1 in the center. Alright, so I got, of course, the 4 elastic pieces. And I also have the Velcro that I glued on here. And this is the hook side. The soft side, I glued in its appropriate spots on the front piece here. And just to give you an idea what it's going to look like, whenever it's all put together, go ahead and stick the Velcro here. And of course glue these into the other side. And then yeah, once it's all put together, you'll have your actual boot cover. Okay. So next what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and go through and attach these. Well, first I'm going to unhook this. I'm going to go ahead and glue these elastic pieces into the right side in the same manner with which I glued them into the back piece. And then the boot cover will pretty much be complete. Alright, so to glue this front piece here to this rear piece, of course I need to attach the Velcro, and I'm going to attach it onto the textured surface here. I've already gone through on this front one and put some super glue on, and on this back one here I've also applied super glue. I also have my 2 squares ready. And the reason for this is I am going to be attaching both ends at once, and the reason for this is I really want to have this as even as possible, and in order to do that I'm going to need to line it up, and trying to do one at a time is just, I don't think, going to work. So I'm going to press both front pieces together and hold them down and glue them just like I did with the front. Okay. And then once that's done, I'm going to glue in these 2 center pieces simultaneously in the same manner. And this will ensure that all four pieces line up. You don't want one too tight and one too loose and it all crooked, because it's just going to look bad and you're going to be sad and it's just not going to be good. And much like at the front, I'm taking these squares and I'm going ahead and putting them in here so that the elastic does not stick to my fingers. Just like with the front, go ahead and hold them down, and then I'm going to go through and, much like with here, I'm going to seal everything off with some hot glue on this side just to make sure everything holds nice and pretty. Alright, so here it is in all of its glory, quote unquote. Front and the back, I can move around in it pretty good. So yeah, pretty stoked on this. The left one's still drying, so I just got the right one on. Next part I'm going to make is covers that are actually going to go over your shoe and Velcro into this. That way you can take it apart or leave it. Probably just put it on all as one, even with the Velcro on or off, but that's what I'm going to get to next. So yeah, I'm pretty stoked with how this came out. Hopefully this will give you some ideas and inspire you to come up with something of your own. Alright, on to my first giveaway. I'm going to give away this Nerf gun that I painted in a previous video, and it does still work. And it also comes with a holster that holds 6 Nerf darts, and I'm also going to include an extra 6 darts, so you can have 12 total. And this is going to be a Facebook contest, so you have from now until July 5th, or sorry, you have from now until July 1st, 2017 to register to win this. And the winner will be announced on July 5th. Now, to qualify and enter for this, you need to go to my main YouTube page. You'll see a link for Facebook. Like and follow the Facebook page, and there will be a picture of this and the holster on the Facebook page. Like this, share the page, and you will be entered in a drawing to win this. And the winner will be announced, like I say, on July 5th. I will announce it on Facebook, and I'll probably do a short video too. And yeah, that's about it, guys. So, yay, 200 subscribers. Sorry I couldn't do the giveaway sooner, but I needed to make sure all my bills were paid after my recent hospital stay. And now make sure I have money for shipping before I, do a giveaway. So I had to wait. But thanks everybody for being patient, and thanks for watching, and thanks for subscribing. And if you like this video, please share and hit the like button.